Okay. And here I am. Here we are. The late night practice. The late night Denver show where there's absolutely no agenda at all. Except just checking out you late night people and see what you're up to. So feel free to call in. By the way, to call in, the number is 855-854-TALK. 855-854-TALK. Actually, there's two numbers. Or it's 855 or 833 the big D. Whatever's easier for you to remember. 833 the big D. Or 855-854-TALK. Both of them will get you in here. Give me a call. Tell me what you're doing. See what you're up to this late night Monday at 12:35 a.m. This is what is the date today? The date today is what, the 30th? November 30th. It's November 30th. 12:35 a.m. Eastern time. So anyway, as some of the things I can get started for topic here is here's YouTube. I mean, look, the Omicron variant concerns. We're very, very concerned about the Omicron. Yeah. Very concerned about Omicron. Because, of course, the Omicron is going to be very, very, very dangerous. Very, very concerned about the Omicron. Yet I saw today on Glenn Beck, let's see if I can find that. Today on Glenn Beck, the actual, while the media was saying that this is a race against time. This is a race against time. This is a race against time. The actual person that discovered it described the symptoms as fatigue, fever. That's it. So, yeah. It's the Omicron. We have Omicron concerns because, you weren't scared enough the first time. And if I can find this, let Let's see if I can find this by Glenn Beck. He was pointing out that he was showing all the news headlines, which you can see them right here on YouTube. You can see all the. Look at this. Oh, look, and Pfizer's already got a vaccine. Almost got a vaccine ready already for the Omicron. I mean, come on, people. How many vaccines are you going to get? Are you going to rush out and get this Omicron vaccine now? And then you got to have a booster for it. It's ridiculous. At what point do you realize? I mean, they are literally testing how stupid are people. So they'll keep doing this. So here we go. Vaccine supply. Look at Pfizer CEO on variant vaccine supply. So the heroes are already working on the vaccine. The vaccine is already in the works. So you don't have to, you can be assured that the saviors are on the job. Look at this right here. Again, vaccine. Come on, people. Seriously, come on, please explain to me why you're going to keep falling for this. So here we go. How serious is it? They were talking about the media, the headlines. One of them said that this variant, they fear that it's as contagious as the Delta variant, which is much more contagious, and it could have the symptoms of Ebola. Yeah, Ebola. So you could be bleeding out your eyes on this one, and you can catch it a lot easier. But Pfizer is working on the vaccine, so don't you worry. So you just keep getting your boosters for the first variant, keep getting your boosters for the second variant, and now you can get a vaccine for Omicron. You can't make this shit up. There will be people rushing out for this vaccine. And Pfizer's just, yeah, stupid people. We're going to make so much money. So, it's insane. Put your, on the live chat, good, and put your comments in, and I can see them. And I can even put them on the screen. Or if you're brave enough, call 855-854-TALK. I also have, if it's easier for you to remember, 833-THE-BIG-D. 833-THE-BIG-D. Or call 855-854-TALK. Tell me what you're doing. This is a totally open forum tonight. I'm just keeping in practice running my show and I need to get better at it and quicker at it, so that way I can start having my guests on again and start doing this. So, yeah, what are you doing up here at 12:40 a.m. Eastern Time on November 30th? Why are you up? I see you watching. I see the numbers there. Show me your comments. And I can put your comments up there. So until you, in case you guys, until somebody gets brave enough to actually start a conversation, this is just what's funny to me. It's just, I don't know how much more obvious it can be that this is bullshit. It's all bullshit. The media is really talking this up. And if you see, if I can find the Glenn Beck, he quotes the person who originally discovered this, said that the symptoms are, here we go, said this, the symptoms are that you're tired and you have a fever. That's the Omicron. Eduardo, what if people you know already have gotten the booster? Is it just a money-making plan or the dangers of getting the booster? I'm telling you, Eduardo, that's what this is. They're going to just keep this up and keep it up. There's two things. There's, in my opinion, there's two things to this. One is just the money-making thing. Did you see, too, Glenn Beck also dug up that the U.S. government is partial owner of the Moderna vaccine. What a conflict of interest. And now they're talking this up as being, again, something very dangerous. The media is saying that it could be. They're fearful. Could be. This is what they say. They literally say, we know little about this. We don't know anything about this. But it could be as bad, as contagious as the Delta variant. And the symptoms could be as bad as Ebola. I mean, the fear-mongering, unbelievable. And then yet the person who actually discovered it said, so far the symptoms are just a fever and you're tired for 2 days. Yeah, that's it. And they're going to, and Biden already is talking about shutting down the country. And not to mention, Biden has stopped travel from Africa, from several African nations. Think about this. Remember when Trump wanted to shut down travel from overseas and from China, that he was racist. He was racist for doing that. But Biden actually shuts down travel from a black country of all countries. And he's not racist. No word about him being racist at all. Oh, look, China will deliver another 1 billion COVID-19 vaccine doses for Africa. Okay, let's think about this too. How there's a big portion of the black community who thinks that there's systemic racism going on. The governments are after them, okay? And they're going to take, if I was black and I believed the government was out to get me, would I fucking take a virus from China? Would I fucking take a vaccine from China? Or even the U.S.? If I believe the U.S. was systemic racist, they're after me, why in the hell would I take a vaccine from them? Why would I trust them when they tell me, here, take the vaccine? If you remember, too, they offer Afro-Americans the vaccine first. So, let's think about this. Is there any critical thinking at all? Is everybody really that stupid? So you're going to believe that the government is systemically racist, and yet you think it's a benefit they're offering you a vaccine first? How does that go hand in hand? If you really believe they're systemically racist, then shouldn't you be suspicious that they want black people to take this vaccine first? But no, right over their head. They're more like, ha ha, ha ha, we get the vaccine first. Bang your head. So anyways, Eduardo, what are you doing up this late? Why are you up this late? Did you have a gig tonight? Eduardo is an awesome young guitar player. So if you got something to say, if you just want to talk, you just want to troll, you want to explain why you're up so late, 855-854-TALK. I got some sound effects, new sound effects. Check out my library.
I feel much better now.
Yeah. That's Bill Nye.
Hey, baby. Hey, baby.
That's appropriate for late night, right?
Settle down, Beavis.
Yeah, actually, I didn't check my volume. My mic volume. There we go. I probably had my mic down. Probably had my mic down too low, didn't I? All right, so now that's fixed. Let's see what else we got here. We got some leftards here.
Could you, shut up and give us some money?
Why are you mad?
That's if I have to nuke some callers.
Settle down, Beavis.
Hey, baby.
Why are you mad?
Could you, shut up and give us some money?
Oh no!
Huh?
Uh-huh.
So there's all the sound effects I got here for the show.
I feel much better now.
That was recorded live at one of my shows. Yeah.
No. Oops.
Magic vaccine for the Micron variant. I don't know, man. It's really disappointing this past couple years to see how stupid Americans are and to see how wussy they are and see how little they've learned about history. It's just unbelievable. And these demon rats are pushing the limits of the American people's stupidity. They're constantly checking and testing at how stupid they are. I don't know if you watched Austria and Australia, what's going on there. Let's look at that. Austrian lockdowns. Look at this. Watch how bad this shit is. Watch this.
If you are struggling with osteoporosis or osteopenia, and you also take any calcium supplements,
Let's see if make sure the audio is coming over.
Groundbreaking discovery from a team of doctors of the University of Arizona.
Let's make sure the
And you also take any calcium supplements.
yeah, it's coming over. Okay, I'll make sure.
Arizona has opened up a new way to increase bone density and get.
Watch this.
Together again, at last. These were the scenes at Sydney Airport in early November, when Australia reopened its international borders after almost 600 days. The country's zero COVID strategy came at a cost. Melbourne.
Wait a second. How old is this?
Lockdowns. But
November
as the
18th.
state reaches its 90% vaccination target, life's now becoming difficult for the unvaccinated. Those who
Key.
receive the jab are allowed to visit restaurants, gyms, and most stores.
I'm Ben Fazulin. Hi. Australia's always been cut off from the rest of the world, but during the pandemic, it literally closed its borders and stopped most people, including me, from coming in or going out. As a result, COVID has hardly touched the country, but Aussies have had to endure long lockdowns.
Barista Theo Rosus is finally
This
back
is
at his
Australia.
espresso machine. Melbourne is just waking up from its 6th lockdown, which lasted 260 days. During that time, Theo had to lay off 20 employees.
How are they going to
Now
recover
he
from
hopes
that?
to be able to start hiring again.
If you look at it from saving numbers and keeping the COVID cases down, absolutely worth it.
Absolutely worth it.
Business
But
perspective,
yet,
the opposite, because it wasn't worth it.
hey, yeah, moron. Florida didn't do that, and we have the lowest infections in the country. The lowest in the country. Yeah, moron.
Obviously, the help was just to keep us open.
Bullshit.
Or functioning to be able to
You're a
open.
fool.
We made no money during the lockdown. No one did.
Meanwhile, his client Nick Deftaros is fed up with lockdowns. He says many people have suffered mentally from the restrictions and sought refuge in alcohol or lost their jobs. No one's talking about that side of things.
Exactly.
People's freedoms have been taken away. Some people have willingly thrown it away, very restrictive on movement and everything. It's pretty much like an open-air prison here in Australia.
It is. It's like a prison.
Hairdresser Darren Williamson has his hands full.
People got
He's
arrested.
glad the government was so cautious because he suffers from an autoimmune disease. Catching COVID could have been fatal for him. He thinks it was a smart move by the government to relax the rules in line with certain stipulations.
Okay, you want to talk about a selfish prick? Okay, so you've got autoimmune that makes you susceptible to the consequences of getting COVID. Okay, I'm sorry. So the whole country has to suffer, get locked down and suffer because of you. You can't just take care of yourself. It's your unique situation, and everybody has to bend to serve you. I mean, that was one of the arguments all the time. All you people, you want Granny to die, and yet it's really the opposite. These selfish assholes want the whole world to suffer and the whole world to shut down because they have a unique, unusual situation. But nobody talks about that.
Like the recent vaccination requirement.
It's been a very difficult couple of years. But with the high vaccination rate, I think it's motivated people to get vaccinated because we want to get out.
No shit.
More, you know,
you can't make a living.
That'll stand us in good stead for the future.
The city of Melbourne was growing rapidly.
And nobody talks about this. This is funny. Everyone talks about these morons don't think about all they hear is how many people got infected. They don't think about the 99% recovery rate. You get a 99% recovery rate. All this is over a flu that has a 99% recovery rate. You'll never, ever, 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 ever hear the government or media and all these vax pushers talking about the 99% recovery rate without a vaccine. You will never, ever, ever hear them talking about that. Because common sense would tell you that a flu that has a 99% recovery rate is not dangerous. And yet, that's all you hear about, how bad it is, how dangerous it is. It has a 99% recovery rate. And that, just like the mass brainwashing, they need to be unbrainwashed by re-brainwashing them. That's what needs to be repeated all the time. Every time someone talks about needing a vaccine, you should have the vaccine. You got to get the vaccine. They need to hear over and over and over, 99% recovery rate, 99% recovery rate, 99% recovery rate, 99% recovery rate, 99% recovery rate. And, I'm sorry, but sometimes I'm tempted to put moron at the end of that. 99% recovery rate, moron. But nobody ever talks about it. You'll never, ever show me one time where the media talks about a 99% recovery rate. They talk about the infections. They won't talk about the recovery rate because it doesn't serve the agenda. And it's been found that the government is part owner in the Moderna vaccine. Conflict of interest. The U.S. government owns part of the vaccine. So they're making money off that.
Before the pandemic, now many people have moved away. Captain Jimmy Gontidas has only worked a total of 3 weeks in the past 20 months. We're his only guests today. Australia enjoyed revenues of around 28 billion euros a year from overseas tourists before the pandemic began. But up until now, non-citizens were not allowed to enter the country except under special circumstances.
By New Year, I hope international travel comes back.
Yeah, see, the morons destroyed their country over 99% recovery rate. A flu that has a 99% recovery rate. A flu that has a 99% recovery rate. They destroyed their economy. and you can't figure out that there's something going on. There's something sinister going on.
Tourists come down, people having parties again. That's what we need. People to be happy, to be free, to live life.
They're not going to
Don't be scared.
They're not going to be.
That's what we
Because now we got Omicron. So I'm sorry to dash your hopes, but Omicron, even though the media says they know nothing about it, the media also says that it could be as contagious as the Delta variant, which was much more contagious. And it could be really, really dangerous, like Ebola. Even though we don't know anything about it. Even though the symptoms so far are 2 days of fatigue and fever. Yes, we need to shut down the world again because we can't have a flu that gives people the fever for 2 days and makes them tired for 2 days. Omicron.
we want back to the way it was.
Meanwhile, Theo Roussos would like to reopen his indoor area to guests, but one thing worries him. From now on, he has to check if his customers are vaccinated. If he doesn't, he could face a fine of up to 70,000 euros.
So who pays for that? Now he has to. Of course, he supported this, though. So, fuck you. You supported it. You supported the lockdown. At the beginning, you said it was a smart thing to do. So, you provide the manpower to check, to make sure people are vaccinated. And if they're not, and if somebody slips through, you pay the fines. It's just smart. It's just being smart.
The culture down here has never been that way. It's always been our doors are open, wide open for everybody to come. And again, if I had a choice, I would accept vaccinated and unvaccinated people. Would be my choice.
Wait a minute. This is the same guy who said it was smart to shut down the country, to shut everything down. And now he's saying he would accept unvaccinated. See, he doesn't even know, like everyone who actually supports this shit, he doesn't even know what the fuck he's saying. He has no idea what he's saying. He's being a hypocrite. On one hand, it was so dangerous that the lockdowns were necessary. It was smart. It saved lives. But he would accept unvaccinated people. It's hypocritical.
In Melbourne, they hope that this time the lockdown is now finally over.
It's not. There's a new variant. Newsflash, there's always going to be a new variant. Do you really not know how a virus works? The very basics. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to be a surgeon to know that viruses morph into new variants. It's never going to stop. It's the question I ask everybody who supported this bullshit right from the beginning. When does it end? When is it safe? If all the things that they listed are the reasons why we have to have lockdowns and masks, all those things will always exist. Always. And they're still not getting it. They're still not getting it. Well, maybe we can open now. No. Omicron.
At the beginning of 2022, Australia is expected to open up again to tourists from Europe. And when it does, Melbourne will welcome them with open arms.
No, it's not going to happen, folks. They're lying to you. They're teasing you. They did not do all this bullshit just to let it all go by. There's something very sinister about this.
Friends.
Let me see if I can skip this. Let's skip this.
Would walk up to me and just be like, "What the fuck is in your mug?" And I would just tell them, "It's mud." I was drinking tons of coffee. I was jittery. I was anxious. It became really obvious to me that my
Let's see what else these
addiction
morons talk about.
But will those arms have been vaccinated? Let's talk about Australia's policies with Catherine Bennett, who heads the Epidemiology Department at Deakin University's Faculty of Health in Melbourne. Historically...
And listen, this is important why people need to understand what's going on in Australia and Austria, because this is the test bed. This is the test bed of what's going on. I'm telling you, these demon rats are watching, these communist demon rats are running our country. They're watching these countries and seeing the mistakes that they make in controlling their citizens, and they're going to figure out how to do it better when it comes here.
A country of petty criminals, and as we heard there, an open-air prison, according to some. I mean, what sort of good or harm has it done, locking up all those Aussies for so long?
Oh, it's had very different effects on you, depending which state you live in. Victoria's really had the hardest run with this and the longest time in lockdown, of course, and the most severe lockdowns with also the highest fines and penalties associated with it. And so you find people that actually are now still, even though we're opening up, scared to leave home because they think if it requires that level of restriction that they should still be worried. And there are others who were over lockdown a long time ago, and we saw that in protests. And so try to manage expectations, keep people in the middle where we're still doing things safely.
So you can't make a living, but you're going to get fined.
But also allowing for the fact that we've got people with very different views and very different experiences in the population.
Catherine, what's your assessment? Did zero COVID work?
Well, it kept our infection rates, even in Victoria, the most troubled state in terms of waves of infection.
It saved us from the 99% recovery rate. Wait, did the lockdown save you, or was it that this fucking flu has a 99% recovery rate? Again, take a look at Florida and explain that.
Infection, we're still looking at an infection rate of something like 1.5% of the population, very low. And of course, we kept our death rate incredibly low by world standards. So that did work. Whether we...
The recovery rate, she didn't give her this, we kept the death rates very low. What is the stats on that? It's better than 99%. What is it, 99.2%? Is that what you did? 99.2%? So, see, I'm telling you, they'll never give you the stats on the recovery of this virus.
We did it all as perfectly as we could. I think we need to do a lot of evaluation work to really understand where we could have pulled back a bit and still had that same outcome.
How about you look at Florida and evaluate that?
But what has happened in this year is we started off very slow with our vaccine rollout, probably partly because we did have this almost complacency with those international borders closed. But once the virus, the Delta variant, came on site and we had to deal with it and knew you couldn't close it down easily as we had previous variants, that then was a game changer. And that then pushed our vaccine rollout to now, amongst some of the highest rates in the world from something that was very slow starting. That's been a good outcome.
And now we have world-class athletes dying from heart issues, but it has nothing to do with the vaccine. Now we have children having heart attacks, but it has nothing to do with the vaccine.
And that small percentage of unvaccinated?
That's right. There's still, in some states and territories, we're getting down to very low numbers. Some states, less than 5% of people 12 and over. Our two most populous states, Victoria and New South Wales, are looking to be well under 10% of people 12 and over vaccinated. Other states are a bit lower. We are seeing in Victoria that 2/3 of our current new cases are people who are unvaccinated. So we're hoping those numbers will be small enough, and of the people remaining unvaccinated, that there will have been a number of people who have had the virus by now and actually have some natural immunity. So hopefully that division based on vaccination status will become less relevant as the numbers are very small of people who don't have any immunity.
And does it help that summer's there now? I mean, the fact that UV light is a lot more abundant down under.
Yeah, well, that's right. And I think, the timing has worked for us where we've rolled out just coming out of our spring. And in fact, it means that at the time we started to open up in New South Wales and Victoria, 50% of people were still within the first month or two of their second dose. So we've got that booster time where you get the best outcomes from your vaccine, where you've got the best protection from onward transmission, not just serious illness, but any infection.
I should have thrown these things in.
That as we wind into summer. And as you say, there's a lot of things about summer, including a tendency to mix and meet outdoors more often, to be able to use outdoor areas in hospitality. And so I think we'll, like the rest of the world, enjoy a slightly less pressurized period over the summer anyway. And
slightly
then we're looking at our booster
less
program going into early 2022 for the general population.
But Micron variant
as well, and that should set us up, I think, well for autumn.
Catherine, one more thing. What about protecting businesses? We heard in that report about all of these small businesses and bigger ones too folding during the pandemic.
There has been a lot of support for businesses trying to keep them going. We know that the stress, the financial stress for the
Well, you can just print money and give it to them, right? You just print money and give it to them. Oh, wait, that causes inflation. Like is happening in our country. Oh, wait, we're not having inflation because that. We're having inflation because the economy is getting great again and people are spending money and it's supply and demand driving up the price. That's right. I'm sorry.
Workers as well as the business operators and owners is enormous, and there's a big public health problem in its own right. So there has been a lot of work to try and keep businesses holding together, JobKeeper programs so that staff could be paid. And so that's the reality that will hit now, though, as people start to open up. We do actually need people to be getting out and participating in retail and in those businesses to get them back on their feet. So I think it's one thing to survive.
They need to talk about the bracelets, the ankle bracelets, keeping people in their homes and stuff. And again, the thing they will never, ever, 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 ever talk about in the media: 99% recovery rate. For this flu, 99% recovery rate. They're already talking about this micron. What's the name of it? The new variant. It sounds like a. Let's go back. Sounds like a transporter. Let's look this back up. Australian lockdowns. The Austrian lockdowns, they're actually going through malls and asking for papers. Look at this. Watch this. Us versus them. It's us versus them.
Austria's government has approved a new lockdown
Look
which
at this
will only
evil
apply to
Nazi.
unvaccinated people. Starting at midnight on Sunday, the government said people who haven't been vaccinated will only be allowed to leave their homes for essential reasons, such as working, shopping, or taking a walk. The lockdown is intended to push more people to get the jab against COVID-19.
Against a 99% recovery rate. A flu that has a 99% recovery rate. You're not allowed to live your life unless you get a jab to protect yourself. Oh, wait, you're protecting others. Oh, wait, it doesn't keep you from spreading the virus. And apparently the vaccinated are not protected against the unvaccinated. Otherwise, it wouldn't matter, would it?
Now, Austria's decision comes just 2 days after the Netherlands announced a partial lockdown for all residents. Austria has one of the lowest vaccination rates in Western Europe, together with Chancellor Alexander Schallenberg, Interior.
And they also won't tell you that it has a 99% recovery rate. You'll never, ever hear that. 99% recovery rate.
Minister Karl Nehammer held a press conference a short while ago. Here's what he had to say.
Ab morgen As of tomorrow, every citizen, every person living in Austria must be aware that they can be checked by the police at any time.
Say, papers, please.
Among other things, we will also check if people have been vaccinated or recovered and the reason for entering public spaces.
Papers, please. Papers, please. We need your papers, please. I don't know. That's probably a bad German accent, isn't it?
I'm joined now by journalist Klaus Prumpers. What do people in Austria think, Klaus? Do they think a lockdown for unvaccinated people is reasonable action for the government to take?
Protesters in front of the Chancellery in Austria and Vienna already indicated that not all people think this will be helpful. They still protest against the measures now taken starting at midnight, and experts already said this is not enough. So the health minister already told in his
It's not enough. You got to round them up and take them to concentration camps. This is no joke. This is no joke. This is what's happening.
Joined by the Chancellor and the Interior Minister we heard just now. We will discuss further measures in the next days so that we really get a better vaccination rate. And already in the last 4 days, indications show that 4 times more people have been vaccinated than in the last 2 weeks before. It applies especially
people are bending.
Austria and Salzburg, where the infections are very high. And as you all know, Germany put Austria on the list of high infectious areas last Friday.
There's the police
what about
checking
how this
papers.
works? How will the government actually control the implementation of this unvaccinated lockdown?
Police will go and control at random, so not everybody will be controlled. Especially the fact is that the public transport is accessible to everybody, wearing FFP2 masks. But this at random control indicates also if you are caught and you are on the streets without one of the purposes you just heard by the Interior Minister, then you can be fined up to 1,450 euros. A lot of people think this is in a country like Austria with a lot of countryside, still not possible to control everybody. And so the spreading of COVID-19 will go on.
How will it spread if 80% of the people are vaccinated? Moron.
And everybody expects that in 10 days from now, new measures will be taken.
Klaus Prumpers,
like
Vienna,
rounding
so much for
up
your
the
time.
unvaccinated.
You're welcome.
Unbelievable. This seriously should be concerning. I mean, seriously, if you don't understand what's going on here, if you're not concerned about this, the education system has failed us. Well, and actually they've done it on purpose. The leftards, the communist leftards, have taken over the education system and made sure that we don't understand the purpose of our freedoms and our constitutional rights. They make sure we don't understand that, and pumping this fear day after day after day after day into people's minds to control them. See, is the U.S. next? I told you. Now they're asking the question. Is the U.S. next? Yes, the U.S. is next. Absolutely, the U.S. is next. This is why you need to pay attention to what's going on. You need to know about this stuff.
Kim, what's on your radar?
Well, last week, the Chancellor of Austria put unvaccinated people under lockdown. We talked about that here on the show. People who have not yet received the vaccine have only been allowed to go to work or do essential things like get groceries. Otherwise, they had to stay home. Now, the country has taken it a step further and has put everyone under lockdown, regardless of their vaccination status, and has issued a nationwide mandate for everyone over 12 to get the vaccine.
See, again, what are they reporting here? They're reporting the cases. They're not reporting the 99% recovery rate. They will only report the cases. They've already, they make it out that a case of COVID is a death sentence. So this is what they're pushing. This bullshit that it's a death sentence. It's a 99% recovery rate. They will never, ever, ever, ever tell you that.
By February. Austria is the first country to go this extreme. Other countries, like the US and Italy, have implemented vaccine mandates for certain cohorts of the population, but Austria marks the first time a government has issued a mandate for all its citizens. During the press conference, the chancellor announced, quote, "For a long time, perhaps too long, I and others assumed it would be possible to persuade people in Austria to voluntarily get vaccinated, that we could persuade them for their own protection and for the protection of those around them, their loved ones, friends, and coworkers. But we must confront reality," he said.
Yeah, the reality is 99% recovery rate.
Yikes. Basically, he's saying they gave the people an illusion of choice, but when they didn't do what they were supposed to do voluntarily, they're now going to be forced into it. This quote kind of reminds me of the saying, "The road to hell is paved with good intentions." People in Austria didn't take too well to this. Protests have erupted all throughout the weekend, with tens of thousands of people taking to the streets. In fact, all throughout Europe, hundreds of thousands of people continue to protest the various mandates being imposed. Germany is also considering mandatory vaccinations for all citizens and warned that by the end of winter, everyone will be either jabbed, cured, or dead because the virus is spreading so quickly in the nation.
Jabbed, cured, or dead. Jab, cured, or dead. Let's not glaze over that. Let's think about what that means. You're either jabbed or you're cured. And what is the cure? What is the cure? Is there a cure? Why do you need a jab if there's a cure? Morons. Or dead. Or dead. Now, people could be dead from not being jabbed or cured, but there's other ways they can be dead too. Nazi Germany.
The U.S. State Department has issued level 4 travel warnings, urging Americans not to travel to Germany or Denmark due to a surge in cases in the two countries who were once hailed.
You know, it's funny. I know a lot of you are out there thinking that I'm just being extreme. But I dare you go back to when this started, when it was just 2 weeks, 10 days or 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Go back and look at my post. Go back and listen to what I was saying, right from then. And you would have said, and some of you probably did if you saw it, the same exact thing. You keep telling me that I'm extreme, and yet I keep being proven right over and over and over again. You cannot give the government the slightest bit of power. They always want more. They never, ever, ever give it back. When the government takes your rights, they never give them back. It takes a revolution. It takes a war to get them back.
For their COVID response. Restrictions are just being piled on all around Europe, from full lockdowns in Austria to partial lockdowns in the Netherlands to restrictions for the unvaccinated in Germany and in the Czech Republic to vaccine passports in France and Italy to mask mandates in Spain and Poland to work from home orders in Ireland. Yet the virus rages on. And what happens in Europe usually?
Because the fucking vaccine doesn't work.
Happens about a month later here in the United States, so we can all expect that right around Christmas and New Year's, parts of the country are going to be talking about lockdowns and beefing up restrictions. Winter is coming. Don't shoot the messenger. Down under in New Zealand and Australia, the two nations are hitting summer when the virus is expected to wane. Nonetheless, they've also taken some pretty harsh measures. New Zealand's prime minister has admitted to creating two classes of people in the vaccinated and unvaccinated.
If she plays the clip, watch how evil this woman is. Watch how proudly this evil comes out of her.
In a bid to forcibly motivate people to get the vaccine. In parts of Australia,
they're not going to show it. So basically, a reporter asked her, it seems, are you creating two classes of people? And before you can finish the sentence or the question, before you can finish the question, are you creating two classes? And she goes, that's exactly what we're doing. That's exactly what she had this sinister look on her face. That's exactly what we're doing.
There's now camps where they cart COVID positive people and their close contacts away against their will to be quarantined in isolation from society.
Let's do
Now,
this
this
again.
is what China did at the beginning of the
Listen.
People and their close contacts away against their will to be quarantined in isolation from to get the vaccine. In parts of Australia, there's now camps where they cart COVID positive people and their close contacts away against their will to be quarantined in isolation from society. Now, this is what China did at the beginning, to motivate people to get the vaccine. In parts of Australia, there's now camps where they cart COVID positive people and their close contacts away against their will to be quarantined in isolation from society, to motivate people to get the vaccine. In parts of Australia, there's now camps where they cart COVID positive people and their close contacts away against their will to be quarantined in isolation from society, to motivate people to get the vaccine.
You get to hear that.
In parts
Are
of
you hearing
Australia,
that?
there's now camps where they cart COVID positive people and their
My camera got stuck in the speedo. That's weird. But anyways, do you hear that? They're rounding people up. That was just a big conspiracy. When this all started, it was a big conspiracy. I said it from the beginning. This is bullshit. This isn't about a virus. It's about control. They're going to expand it. The virus will always, all the reasons that they gave why we have to be locked down, why we have to be controlled, all the reasons they gave are reasons that never goes away when it comes to a virus. There's always new variants, always new variants. Now we got Omicron. And this one here, the admittedly will tell you, the media in the same fucking story will tell you that they don't know anything about this, but then they'll tell you that it could have the infectious rate as the Delta variant, and it could be as bad as Ebola, as dangerous as Ebola. They have nothing to base that on. And so far, the symptoms of the Omicron variant, the symptoms are, for 2 days, you have a fever and you feel tired. That's it. That's the symptoms. And even with the original virus, 99% recovery rate. And they'll never tell you that, ever.
Close contacts away against their will to be quarantined in isolation from society. Now, this is what China did at the beginning of the pandemic. If you remember, the people in bubble suits forcibly throwing people into vans. We all watched in utter disbelief and thanked our lucky stars we lived in the free West, or at least we thought. Now, all of these measures, from lockdowns to passports and mandates and now camps, these are all in an attempt to stop the spread. But the virus isn't stopping. Nothing has stopped it from spreading. Every single nation that has once been revered as the shining example of how to beat the virus has eventually been hit. Singapore, Iceland, Germany, and Denmark. No one is being spared. And all of these measures that continually infringe on the rights of the people only backfire with the wave of anger that we're already witnessing in Europe.
99% recovery
Where that
rate.
anger will lead when people have had every ounce of their autonomy taken from them and the virus is still with us, I think politicians should stop and think long and hard about that.
No, the politicians have they have thought long and hard about it. It's not about the virus. It's about control. These are psychotic, evil people running the government. And it's about control. They have thought about it. They thought this completely through. They thought about the next variant and what they're going to do. Joe Biden ran with nothing on the table except what he's going to do about COVID. That was his whole message. COVID. I'm going to protect you from COVID. I'm going to protect you from COVID. And that's all he needed to do, because he had the media constantly putting people into fear. And they would never say this flu has a 99% recovery rate.
Fact is, the vaccines are working as they were intended. They are helping, for a period of time, prevent the most severe outcomes for those who are the most vulnerable, people over the age of 65. As experts, including Fauci, have noted, They wear off against severe disease, so you can't count on them forever. Maybe you're going to be needing some booster shots.
On top of that, though, even she's as honest as she's being, and this is a very good report. They're not talking about world-class, healthy athletes dropping dead from heart issues. What's that called? Myocardio, whatever it is. These are healthy athletes dying after getting the vaccine. Even children are having heart attacks now. Even children are. And she's not even mentioning that. We'll look that up in a second.
But they have brought us some time to develop medications, and that should have been and that time also should have been used to test existing medications that will help prevent COVID from progressing into a severe disease. If we can prevent severe disease, that should be the goal. Pandemic over. The only goal at this stage, after every failed attempt to eradicate the virus by stopping the spread, is to focus on outcomes. And the irony is, in Austria and Germany and all of these countries that are reeling back into restrictions, their death rates are actually much lower than they were last winter. They have vaccinated their most vulnerable, and it's working, but they still seem fixated on stopping the spread. And this fixation on eliminating COVID has caused, in my opinion, political leaders to panic and greatly overstep their bounds. The consequences of this massive government overreach will be felt sooner than later when, one by one, people who believe that these restrictions, mandates, and efforts were the way out see that they aren't. The goal should be obvious at this point. Do what we can to prevent severe disease in those who are the most at risk of terrible outcomes.
That's exactly
Most people are not.
What DeSantis did. Protected those that were vulnerable. That's all we need to do.
Not at risk. Maybe we should leave those people alone and instead focus on the people who are at highest risk.
Exactly.
So I hate to break it to you guys, but I do think lockdowns and restrictions are possibly coming to the United States. We have always been 1 month behind Europe.
I told you. This is what's important to know what's going on in Australia and Austria. Australia used ankle bracelets, and Austria right now is just walking around randomly. They're stopping traffic. They're going to shopping centers, and they're randomly going up to people, making them show their COVID vaccine passport. So, and that should be concerning. And Australia is actually carting off people into COVID camps. It's coming here. This is why we should be concerned. Now, one reason why that it's slower coming here, we have guns. Citizens have guns. Australia gave up their guns with a gun buyback program. So, see here, look. Let's see if we can find that. Here's one problem with using YouTube is because you can't always find what you want. Australia. And how you spell Australia. Now all of a sudden I can't spell Australia. Gun destroyed. Let's see if we can find this. 1997, they did it. Confiscated guns. Right here. This is why Australia can't fight back. This is why America, it's slow for them to take these draconian measures. Look at all those weapons that they could have defended themselves with. Check. Check. Okay. It's weird. This is why Australians can't protect themselves. This is what they're trying to do to us in the U.S. And now the Australians are being carted off to camps if they refuse to get the vaccine. This was 1997. Tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen. You were too busy dissing. Yep. And that's why Australia is screwed. And Austria. Austria now, they're getting papers, please. The police are going around checking. Let's see what Ben Shapiro says about this. Yeah, he compares the two.
Hi, Mr. Shapiro. Thank you for coming. I'm a big fan, and I agree with you on most things, but there's one topic that I want to hear you talk more about. My question pertains to firearm policy in the United States versus Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Between 1995 and 1996, directly before and after the gun buyback in Australia, there was a 36% drop in deaths caused by gunshot wounds. And that's the sharpest decline in gun-related deaths between 1989 and 2014 in Australia. Between 2001 and 2002, before and after the trafficking handgun agreements in Australia, the general homicide rate, not even specific to firearms, dropped by 17%, which was also the sharpest drop in homicides between 1989 and 2014 in Australia. Comparing Australia to the United States, between 2001 and 2014, there was a 44% decline in the rate of homicides in Australia, compared to only a 19% decline in America. Given these facts, do you believe that policies similar to those enacted in Australia, specifically the gun buyback, and the National Firearm Agreement, as well as the trafficking handgun agreements, do you think that similar policies in America would help reduce gun violence?
So I don't think that a gun confiscation policy or gun buyback program like Australia's would be effective. First of all, important to note that it's unclear how much of the reduction in gun violence in Australia was actually due to the gun buyback. And the reason I say that is because only 1/3 of the guns that were actually bought back were bought back, meaning that 2/3 of the guns remain in circulation in Australia and remain in the homes of the people there. So the gun buyback was not responsible for a 100% reduction of the number of guns in circulation. It was responsible for a 33% reduction in the number of guns in circulation. Second of all, I'd actually want to see this, because you're speaking verbally, I'd like to see the statistics that you're talking about, because the statistics that I have seen is that between 1994 and 2015, the decline in gun homicide rate in the United States was actually about the same as it was in Australia, without us actually engaging in the same policy. And in fact, there's a good article at the Washington Post. The woman's name escapes me. It's a woman who used to work for 538. Her name was Leigh Labrescu. And she writes an entire piece specifically about the UK and Australia and contrasting their gun policy with the United States and explaining why this is not particularly apt as a comparison. And it isn't. I mean, the fact is that America's homicide rate, our gun violence rate, has gone down massively since 1994, despite the increase of the number of weapons in circulation tremendously during that same period. Right, we've actually increased between 1994 and now from, I think it's 250 million guns in circulation, about 400 million guns in the United States in circulation right now. At the same time, the gun violence rate has declined markedly. Also, when I see these statistics, very often what people tend to do is lump in suicide with homicide. So this is why I'm questioning the stats, because I have different stats. But if you want to send them to me, I'm happy to have an email exchange about them, because I'm curious. I mean, I like more information. But what people tend to do when it comes to this sort of stuff is attribute sharp drops in homicide, which they include sometimes suicide and homicide, to the lack of guns. Well, if you want to shoot yourself, then this actually brings up a general question. Is it my job to remove a gun from you if you want to shoot yourself? I mean, you want to shoot yourself. Like, you could stab yourself, you could hang yourself. And Japan has fairly high suicide rates in certain places. They have virtually no guns in that society. So suicide is something we don't quite understand well on a social science level.
Ben Shapiro. Thousands of gun confiscated. So there you go. So let's look at the Omicron. The Omicron. Oh, CNN. Let's watch how CNN. Yeah, alarming. Look at the alarming new COVID variant. So already, this is going to be good. This is going to be such. I'm going to have the laugh track ready.
Meet your new pillow.
For
why do we make our pillow in the shape of a cube? I'll tell you.
In a world fatigued by waves of COVID-19, now renewed fear. In South Africa, scientists identifying a troubling new variant of the virus that is dominating infections here.
The person who discovered it says this troubling thing is you're tired for 2 days and you have a fever. That's troubling.
Variant of serious concern, which is now driving this spike in numbers.
More than 30 mutations, say scientists, in the spike protein alone. It's a worrying sign. Scientists are working in labs like this one in South Africa, scrambling to confirm if the variant evades immunity from previous infections, or crucially, if it weakens vaccine efficacy. Definitive answers could take weeks.
Well, you know, Pfizer already is working on the vaccine for the Omicron variant. Surprise. Oh, I meant to start this.
We think it may be a more transmissible virus and it may have some immune escape. Now, we don't know that for sure, but that's what it looks like.
It may.
The European Commission has today proposed to member states
We don't know,
to
but it
activate
may.
the emergency brake on travel from countries in southern Africa.
But even without clear answers, the world is
No
shutting
clear
its
answers.
doors. Countries all across the globe rapidly banning travelers from parts of Africa.
Yeah, and when Trump banned China and other countries from the original coronavirus, he was racist. But Biden's not.
They say to curb the spread of the variant. Now thousands are likely stranded. In Schiphol Airport, Amsterdam, hundreds of passengers from South Africa forced to sit on the tarmac for hours after landing, then crowding in a COVID testing site after the Netherlands bans travel from South Africa. The International Air Transport Association saying restrictions are not a long-term solution.
Okay. Again, common sense question. There's always going to be variants. Are we going to fucking shut down the country's travel all the time? The answer is yes, because it's about control. These countries will become prisons for their own citizens.
They've already lost billions to the pandemic. And anger in South Africa, where officials call the bans draconian, knee-jerk measures.
What I found so disgusting and really distressing actually from here was not just the travel ban being implemented by the UK and Europe, but that was the only reaction or the strongest reaction. And there was no word of the support that they're going to offer to African countries to help.
Well, don't worry. As we saw earlier, China's going to offer vaccines to Africa.
Us control the pandemic.
Countries in Africa, now Israel, Hong Kong, and Belgium, have so far confirmed cases of the variant. Now, no sign that there is this variant in the US confirmed at the moment. Just moments ago, Jim, this news coming in that the European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control saying that there is a high to very high risk that this variant will spread through Europe. And it's the expectation that
No
if
shit.
it's more transmissible, it will spread globally. But it's too early to...
No shit? A virus will spread globally? Viruses don't do that, do they? This virus must be really, really different.
say at this point. It must be stressed that the WHO and the Africa CDC have said that these travel bans are not the most effective way of stopping variants of concern. And I must say that several scientists have expressed to me today in South Africa that they believe they're coming out very quickly with this news, and being transparent has led them to be punished, and this country to be punished with these bans. That's the view from here, at least. Jim?
All right, David McKenzie, I suspect you are correct. Thank you very much for that report. Joining me live to discuss, Dr. Peter Hotez, co-director of the Center for Vaccine Development at Texas Children's Hospital and Dean of the School of Tropical Medicine at Baylor College of Medicine. Dr. Hotez, I had a feeling we were going to be having this kind of discussion sooner rather than later, that some new variant was going to emerge that was just going to cause
you figured it out?
Trouble around the world. We just got a new alert from the European version of the CDC, as David McKenzie was just talking about a few moments ago, saying that there is a very high risk, high to very high risk that this new COVID variant will spread throughout Europe. I suspect it's not going to be very long before our CDC says the same thing.
So see what they're doing? They're stating the obvious as if it's a surprise And this gives them credibility. This is how this lie works. They're spreading the obvious as if it's not obvious. And then when the obvious happens, then it gives them credibility that they know what they're talking about. It's like the CDC is saying that this variant could give you a fever. It's very likely it would give you a fever. Oh, shit.
Well, a few thoughts, Jim. One, this is the consequence of failing to vaccinate the African continent. Only 6% of the continent is vaccinated. We knew additional variants were going to.
Again, let's listen and see if they talk about 99% recovery rate. They won't say anything about that.
Emerge in that setting because that's how variants of concern arise. They emerge among unvaccinated populations. And so the fact that there was not a good faith effort to go beyond mRNA and adenovirus vectored vaccines to vaccinate with recombinant protein vaccines, we could have had the African continent vaccinated by now.
This is like, it's like saying, it's like making a big deal that if it's going to rain and all the cars are going to get wet. All the cars are going to get wet. All the cars are going to get wet. Why is this a problem? And then they pull out and show that, well, a few cars have a leak when it rains and it leaks in the cars. How many cars does it happen to? Oh, just like old cars and junky cars, but it rains on all the cars, and that's the problem. All the cars are getting wet. It doesn't matter that only a few of them are affected by the rain. It only matters that all the cars are getting wet. And so that's the same with this virus. They won't point out that 99% of them, the people that get it, recover. 99%.
Had we done that? So part of this is a self-inflicted wound. But look, I think it's important to convey the message that there's concern, but the sky is not falling. And here's why, Jim. First, this variant does not appear to be causing worse disease than anything we've seen before. This is not the Andromeda strain. So
this is what I said earlier. The original person who discovered it says that you get tired for 2 days and you have a fever. Oh my God. So this is what's dominating the news. A flu that makes you tired for 2 days and gives you a fever.
it's not like the mortality goes up even further with this variant. Second point is, yes, there are a lot of mutations in the spike protein, including the receptor binding domain that binds to the receptor. But in the past, those kinds of vaccine escape variants have not really translated into major global pathogens. So
Okay, this guy's, he's being a little honest here.
We've seen this before, to some not as extreme, but with the Beta variant out of South Africa before, remember the B1351 and the Lambda variant out of South Africa, those
Costa's shaking his head like he knows.
never really took off. So there's nothing intrinsic about having a lot of mutations in the spike protein that would account for global spread.
So let me see. A virus that has a 99% recovery rate. We have a variant that isn't likely, he's saying, unlike what Jim Costa said at the beginning, isn't likely to cause any major deals or be any worse than the original.
Worst ones, the Alpha variant that arose out of an unvaccinated population in the UK, and the Delta variant that arose out of an unvaccinated population in India, was because of an amino acid substitution in the 681 position that caused it to be much more highly transmissible. So the most important question for this weekend and in the next few days.
Wait a second. What's he saying? Did he just say what I thought he said? That it was an omission in the vaccine that caused the Delta variant?
was because of an amino acid substitution in the 681 position that caused it to be much more highly transmissible. So
What?
the Delta variant that arose out of an unvaccinated population in India was because of an amino acid substitution in the 681 position that caused it to be much more highly transmissible. So the most
Okay,
important
he said
question
of the
for this
unvaccinated.
weekend and in the next few days next week is this variant more transmissible than Delta? Does it have the ability to outcompete Delta? And we really don't know that yet. It's possible, but we still have to do a lot more studies.
Yeah.
Because the Delta variant has been the worst so far. And so I think all of those things have to be kept in mind.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because, that is a key question here. Moderna, we should point out to our viewers, released a statement just a short time ago. Of course, a lot of people have gotten the Moderna vaccines here in the U.S. Moderna releasing a statement saying the mutations on
Moderna, which we found out that the U.S. government is partial owner of.
this new variant represent a, quote, significant potential risk to both natural and vaccine-induced immunity. How concerned are you about that?
So this weekend, our scientists working on our recombinant protein at Texas Children's Hospital in Baylor are doing just that. We're looking at the antibody responses to our vaccine and seeing if it can cross-neutralize the Omicron variant. And I'm sure Moderna and
Omicron.
Pfizer and other pharma companies are doing the exact same thing. And so we'll get some idea of its ability to cross-neutralize the variant in the laboratory. It's not quite the same as a vaccine effectiveness study, but it gives us some indication. And I think that's going to be very important as well. But it's still critical to remember that the biggest crisis right now facing the United States is still that we've only vaccinated half the population.
Right.
We've got 41% that are totally unvaccinated. We have a significant percentage that have only gotten 2 doses of the vaccine with waning immunity. And we have those who are infected and recovered who have incomplete immunity because they've not gotten vaccinated.
That's right.
So the emphasis the game plan doesn't change.
That's right.
We need to vaccinate the American people fully. And the travel restrictions, we've not seen a big impact on travel restrictions so far in terms of helping the situation. If you remember at the beginning of this pandemic, we talked about travel restrictions from China when the whole time this virus entered into New York City.
Yeah, and Trump was racist.
So I think this variant's pretty
because
widespread.
of that.
It's already moving around the world. And I just spoke very briefly via text with Dr. Anthony Fauci a short while ago. And I asked, whether or not this means people should not get their boosters right now. No, he says, absolutely, you should get your boosters right now.
Of course.
All the more reason to do so. Dr. Peter Hotez, thank you so much.
Of course, you should get your boosters. All right. So I'm done here. And yeah, this is just a little keep in practice show. So I can remember how to run all this stuff for a while. So I'm going to be getting some guests in here and for the Denver show and get that thing rolling again. So this is just a little practice. Anyways, as you can tell, I'm tired too. I thought maybe we'd find some late night freaks that would call in and tell me what you're doing, but that didn't happen. So, all right. Love and peace to you all. And remember, Omicron. We don't know anything about it, but it could be very dangerous. And don't worry, though. Pfizer's already got a vaccine working for it. We're safe. And to go out, I'm going to play the Denver show theme. It's using my intro, but I'm going to use it as my outro this time, too, because it's so cool. Jay did who used to be a co-host on the show. He did the music. So, and he kindly named it the Denver Show theme. So this is it, the Denver Show.